Hi, my name is Gibson and I'm the co-owner and creator of the Personal Development School. This is your daily breakthrough video, and in this video I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the fearful avoidance dating checklist, and this is going to be part of a two-part series. So this is part one of the fearful avoidant dating checklist for what they're supposed to do and the things they want to refer back to specifically in the dating phase of a relationship. So if you're not already familiar, we often talk on this channel about how different attachment styles show up in each of the 6 stages of relationships. And this means in the dating stage, in the honeymoon phase, in the power struggle phase of a relationship, in the stability, commitment, and bliss phases of a relationship. And each different attachment style in each of the stages has specific personal needs, expectations that they tend to carry in subconscious patterns, different wounds and pain points that can pop up in each of these stages, different fears that can come up, and different things that they basically have to use as a rite of passage in order to proceed into the following stages. And so if we are not aware of our own or the other person's blueprint that we are dating or getting to know, we have all these unnecessary challenges because we go into this interaction basically like playing a board game with a different rule book than the other person. And of course, there's going to be unnecessary friction and pain points. So I do a really deep dive in our advanced attachment style courses inside of the school that go into this in a tremendous amount of detail. You can always check that out if you want to go a little bit deeper and sort of save yourself some time and energy that might be wasted in like obstacles and frustrations when you're actually going through the stages of a relationship. If you want to dive into that, you can use the coupon code WITHYOU. It will give you access to all of our 35 plus courses if you sign up for a membership bundle for 3 months, 6 months, or 12 months. And it's WITHYOU, all one word. You can enter it at checkout, and I will put a link in the description box below as well as on this video. And then also comes with 4 live webinar calls a week that I do with everybody who's a member inside of the school, where you can ask your personal questions, or I do the workbooks with our students and we kind of go through things together, as well as access to our members forum, members lounge, Discord chat channel, and basically a place that you can do this sort of work with other individuals who are like-minded. So feel free to check that out. But without further ado, I'm going to get into this video specifically. So the fearful avoidant. Here are some things you really want to know and understand when it comes to the dating phase of your relationship. So number one, the whole point of having a dating phase in a relationship, the entire point of dating to begin with, is really to vet somebody. It's really to understand, like, does this person fit into my life? Will they continue to? Do we work? Do I fit into their life as well? Can we see ourselves like mutually benefiting each other and growing together and connecting and having something that can be sustainable and thriving? And sometimes we can get lost in this point where we forget how big of an impact romantic relationships actually have on our lives. And the impact of a romantic relationship is huge because somebody has the ability to influence your subconscious mind when you enter into a relationship. Why? Because the subconscious is programmed through repetition plus emotion. So whatever you're repeatedly exposed to in another person is going to rub off on you to a certain degree over time, most likely. And so we have to take our time in the dating phase to really assess. So step number 1 on your checklist, or point number 1, is, am I clear about what I want? Am I going into this dynamic intentionally? Like, if we look at the analogy I keep using in this series, is if you go to start a business, if you don't even know what business you want to start, you're like, I just want to start any business. You could do it, but it's going to be a lot more difficult than if you have a business plan in advance, an idea of what it is that you want to be doing. You've done your market research or competitive analysis. Like, if you have a framework, you're going to save yourself a lot of time long term, okay? So when it comes to dating, this looks like, do I know what traits or qualities I want, morals and values, or future plans and lifestyle? Like, if I look at a dynamic where I might be spending all this time with somebody, I have to be able to match up, okay, does this person want kids and I don't want kids, or they don't want kids and I do want kids? Does this person like animals and want to have pets and I already have pets, and they don't there's so many things, but really it's like children, lifestyle, traveling, like how, and finances, like are you both savers or spenders? And then we have to be able to assess the things that somebody doesn't have. Are these solvable problems or not? And am I willing to continue and sort of pursue and be able to communicate about the things where there's differences? Okay, so you want to really know like what you do want, but then also what you don't want in terms of your non-negotiables, the things that for you are not solvable problems. So for example, maybe for some individuals, it's you are from a certain religious background or a spiritual background, and you're like, this person needs to have the same background. Maybe for you, it's you really want to have kids and somebody else doesn't, and that's not negotiable. So you have to get really clear on what those things are, and that's your number 2. Are you clear about what you don't want, aka your non-negotiables? Number 3 for the fearful avoidant, just like for other attachment styles, are you clear about your boundaries ahead of time with dating? Sometimes fearful avoidance specifically can kind of fall into the people-pleasing trap, and like, oh, you know, you want to impress other people and you want to connect with them. And because so much of fearful avoidant attachment styles patterning has to do with being hypervigilant about other people's behaviors, because that was your survival mechanism and strategy, it's really easy to fall into the trap of becoming boundaryless, because boundaries are about being in touch with our own feelings and needs in real time and then being able to communicate those things. And if we're out of touch with that because we're so hypervigilantly focused on somebody outside of us, then that can cause problems. So I always say set your boundaries ahead of time, be clear about what they are, know ahead of time. And this can be things like, you know, somebody cannot speak to me in a certain disrespectful manner. I won't put up with that. I don't want to be pressured into anything by anybody. Nobody can come back to my house or invite themselves to my home for X amount of time until I feel like I know them enough. Whatever it might be for you, you want to define those things as clearly ahead of time as possible for the things that will matter to you during the dating phase of a relationship. Okay? Your next piece is, am I evaluating if this person is a good fit for my life? Okay. A lot of FAs, again, they go into people-pleasing mode and they're like, do they like me? Am I good enough? Am I earning my worth? Is a big one for FAs. Am I showing up perfectly enough? Am I, you know, connecting deeply enough? And deep connection, you know, has to be, we have to have the best date every time ever. And this is the big FA thing. And you have to be able to, instead of worrying about if you are good enough in some form for this person, are you connecting enough? Are you showing up well enough? Are you charismatic enough? Instead of getting stuck in that mentality, you want to be able to look at, is this person going to be a match for me too, and my morals and values and traits and the things I've defined intentionally as being important to me ahead of time. Okay, and then you can look for your next point about if you are a good fit for that person's life as well. That's fine. But usually the FA needs to bring into balance them being able to assess somebody else. Okay. The next really big piece here is, am I deactivating over small things? Are these things reasons to push somebody away truly, or are they solvable problems? So a lot of the FAs can fall into the trap or mentality of like fearing or having something come up where somebody insinuates or says a comment that can trigger a trust wound or something like this, and right away just shut off, run away, get as far away as possible and not want to continue the situation. And sometimes fearful avoidants have to practice knowing when to surrender small things. Okay. Now, this is not me saying ignore red flags. I want to be really clear about this. It's really important to identify what your red flags are, know your boundaries and your intentions and your non-negotiables. And of course, if these things are violated, this is a problem and it is justified to step away. But sometimes I'll hear things like FAs saying, you know, and this is sort of similar to DAs, it's the deactivating side. Sometimes I'll hear FAs saying things like, oh, they made a comment that sounded sketchy, and, you know, now I'm like, oh, I never want to see that person again. Or they, you know, didn't call back within a certain period of time, and where that might trigger somebody anxious to go, I have to call, I have to whatever. Sometimes fearful avoidants will go, that hurt me, and I'm walking away, that's it. And I just want the fearful avoidant to be very mindful and ask themselves this question, you know, is this a reasonable thing to walk away over? Am I happy with everything else? Do I need to do something about this, like communicate about it or state a boundary that they might not know, or inquire further instead of jumping to a conclusion or sort of jumping the gun on a situation? Because sometimes fearful avoidants they've been through a lot of worst case scenarios. And so they look for the worst case scenarios and they're like, oh no, this could be really bad. So it's sort of this balance between being clear ahead of time about what's like seriously not okay for you, and then knowing if something, does cause a little bit of concern, but it's not necessarily a red flag. Like it's not in your non-negotiables. It wasn't like a boundary violation or something like that, but maybe something that triggered uncertainty for you. You have to feel empowered to have a conversation, to ask further questions, to gather more information, and to feel like you can use your voice and communicate in order to do that. And a lot of what happens for FAs is you feel like you can't, and you have to be perfect, and you have to, make everything work perfectly. And so you take all this pressure, and then you don't communicate, and then you perceive imbalances at some point in time, and then you run away from the dynamic. And sometimes that's actually a reflection more of a wound than of the person. And you want to become really good at evaluating which one is which. And we gain the ability to do this by being clear ahead of time. Okay. Now, the next thing that's really important in here is, am I in a space where I am staying open to trusting and vulnerable communication? This does not mean trust things that are not going well or that could be red flags. This means, am I being mindful about my potential behaviors where I will shut down very quickly, see things through an all or nothing lens, and then limit myself in my ability to work through some of my own dynamics when it comes to how I relate to other people, because I'm not, communicating my needs or sharing my feelings or voicing my concerns or thinking that it's okay to be vulnerable. I think I'm weak by being vulnerable, and so I prefer not to say anything at all, and then make assumptions through the filter of worst case scenarios and push people away accordingly, which is, again, something FAs often do. And then it's really painful for my dear FAs because I used to be an FA, so I understand, you like really want connection and want love, but then you fear it at the same time, but then you're sort of exacerbating your worst case scenario fears. And so a really big next point we have here is, are you questioning your stories and then communicating your needs? Okay? Because when we question our stories, we have the ability to be like, you know what? I can't exactly know if that's true. So I have to meet the need of inquiring further and finding certainty by asking. Or I have to, I don't know that that's 100% true. So, I'm not going to jump to the conclusion that the person doesn't like me or thinks I'm unworthy because they're a little late to call back, or whatever it might be for you. So this is a really big point on your checklist. Now I'm going to finish with that for today because there's a lot more on this list. So stay tuned for part 2 tomorrow. Of the Fearful Avoidant Dating Checklist. And again, if you want to do a much deeper dive, we have all this stuff and all of the blueprint for needs, expectations, all these points in our advanced Fearful Avoidant Attachment Style Reprogramming course. And we also take you through different reprogramming tools for the things that aren't serving you and let you know what your needs and expectations might be subconsciously in each of the 6 stages of a relationship. So thank you so much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe if you're getting a lot of value out of this channel, and I will see you in the next video.